What would that look like? Well, we would destroy safety and security. We'd destroy quality education. We'd destroy economic opportunity. We'd destroy energy independence, and we would destroy the border. And it looks to me like this General Assembly is doing a real good job of completely destroying the state of Illinois. In Springfield, we spend a lot of time debating and passing meaningless, virtue-signaling legislation that helps no one, and there are really no solutions to help the taxpayers. Those solutions are what we would like to talk about today. And the first thing on the docket would be, we want to talk about bills that we introduced that never got heard. The first one that I want to talk about is HB 2178 that repeals the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, something that I like to refer to as the Green Bad Deal. This is probably the biggest sham issue of my entire life that it will eventually destroy the economy in Illinois as well as the entire United States of America. And it's time that somebody stand up and be the adult in the room and push back on this bad idea. You know, the problem is that we're believing a lie that CO2 emissions will soon lead to the irreversible ecological destruction of Illinois and the USA, and is absolutely a myth. If you think about it, you need to put on your critical thinking cap when you think about this. Sound science, your observation dictates your conclusion. And I know that during my lifetime that we've gone through global cooling, we've gone through global warming, and now we're through climate change. And one thing that I know and have concluded by observation, since none of the prophecies and prognosis and predictions have come true, not one of them, over the last 69 years of my life. And so what I would like to say is that we're not having a climate crisis, but what we are having is a crisis of common sense. If you think about it, CO2, man-made CO2, collectively adds up to 1/100th of 1% of the atmosphere around the globe. If you think about the entire CO2, it's about 4/100ths of 1%. And there's one thing that I know is that I remember from earth science class, there's something called photosynthesis, and it's where green leafy plants actually absorb carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. And it's the way God made it, a way to clean up the climate and to keep things in balance the way it should be. And one thing that we've noticed is we're dedicated to political outcomes more than objective truth. And that's the biggest reason why we introduced this bill to repeal this act, because it's complete nonsense. It's a house of cards, and it will never stand the scrutiny over time, and it will eventually bankrupt our entire nation. Thank you, and I'm going to turn this over to my good friend, Adam Niemer.
Thank you, folks. Thanks for being with us here on a very, very busy day and a very, very busy week. My name is State Representative Adam Niemer. I represent the 102nd District, and we're here to talk about some legislation that we filed as Freedom Caucus members, and a legislative agenda that we like to push forward. But all too often, especially weeks like this, we see a lot of Dem bills get pushed through. I think we ran 120 bills yesterday, and a vast, vast majority of them were Democrat bills. And the bills that Republicans are allowed to run are typically a clerical bill. Some of them have a little bit of so-called teeth to them, but really the Democrats, they're controlling the ship and they're passing legislation at their whim. But we've got a lot of good bills, folks. We've got House Resolution 51. It mandates a forensic audit on state hiring, procurement, and contracting. As Representative Miller pointed out, too, we have House Bill 2178, repeals CEJA. House Bill 1575, it lowers the gas tax, repeals that gas tax increase a few years ago, lowers it back to 19 cents a gallon. House Bill 2979 increases the standard income tax deduction. We have a lot of great income tax bills that we filed with child tax credits, also the income tax deduction up to $150,000. 2599, House Bill 2599, lowering corporate income tax. Wouldn't that be something to see here in the state of Illinois? House Bill 3625 bans TikTok on state devices. Representative Wilhauer, great bill. House Bill 2986 prevents the rate of growth of general fund spending from exceeding the rate of growth of Illinois median household income. You just can't spend more than you take in, right? Common sense initiatives. And we have bills upon bills upon bills, school choice bills, bills to protect our Second Amendment, bills to help foster kids go in the right direction on DCFS. But really, you know, we have got a situation here, and I understand we're in the minority, but we're in the bottom 5 in unemployment. We've lost more than 100,000 residents last year. We have former legislators facing indictments and a culture of corruption that's legendary. We need to focus on real problems facing our state, which is what our legislation does. We lost Caterpillar, Tyson, Boeing, and other major employers in the state of Illinois, and we want to reverse these trends. We want people to live in Illinois and have a reason to stay here other than just our families being here. We want to give incentive to folks. We want to give incentive to small businesses for people to set up mom and pop shops. We want to bring people back to the state of Illinois. But you know, we're going to keep pushing because in the state of Illinois, we think it's worth saving. You know, we see things like I said on Appropriations General Services and the Legislative Audit Commission. We see the bureaucratic shuffle. We see state directors get moved from one agency to another without any accountability. So we've got to change the culture of corruption here in Springfield. But we're going to keep fighting as Freedom Caucus members, and we're going to try to get the job done for you. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to my good friend, Representative Blaine Wilhauer.
There's going to be time for questions, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes, sir. State Representative Blaine Wilhauer. I'm representing the great people in God's country of South Central Illinois. It's great to be here. Thank you, Adam and Chris, for your comments and the rest of the Freedom Caucus. You know, we do have a really, really tough time in this state dealing with real issues. And I think that you'll find one of the biggest reasons that we don't deal with real issues in this state is because when you do that, you're going to come up against some very entrenched special interests that are pretty dedicated to the status quo. And, you know, they're basically the benefactors of most of the politicians in this place. So Adam did a really good job of talking about a lot of the things that we are proposing that we know would actually turn this state around and bring people back to this state and bring industry back to this state. But I think it's important to take a look at some of the things that we are doing in this state that really illustrates that we're not dealing with the real issues. I mean, we've did legislation in the past couple weeks that is banning the use of pronouns of boy and girl when referring to children in statute, requiring school buses to go all electric, 100%, I think within 10 years. That sounds really realistic. Requiring menstrual products to be put in all public restrooms. That's going to have people, rushing to get back to this state. Allowing a member of the General Assembly or a constitutional officer to certify or solemnize a marriage in Illinois. So, we're not dealing with our pension crisis or anything else, but we can all officiate marriage ceremonies now. Further muddying up the waters on marriage and defying the laws of other states by allowing couples to marry in Illinois that don't intend to stay in Illinois. We reversed that ban. We've also banned the declawing of cats. We've took away local control of library boards and parents, took away parents' local discretion to prevent their children from basically government-sanctioned indoctrination with some of the books full of propaganda. We've, there was even a move on the floor of the House yesterday to an anti-gas stove agenda to put warning labels on gas stoves because they're apparently destroying everything. But thankfully, there was enough common sense Democrats on the floor yesterday that actually put a stop to that. But when you look at this stuff, it's a joke. once again, our state's a national embarrassment. We're basically a woke dumpster fire of a government that's literally circling the drain, and these are the things we're talking about. There's nothing, and we're talking about nothing on the massive pension crisis that's driving property taxes through the ceiling. There's nothing to deal with the 7,000 plus units of government in this state that's taxing everybody into oblivion. There's nothing to address the rampant, epic corruption and influence peddling by basically a long-standing Democrat organized crime syndicate that's had free reign in this place for decades. We're not doing anything about that, and that's absolutely ridiculous. And that when we've done nothing to keep a governor in check who has shown that he is more than willing to trample, to trash all over the Constitution in order to enact his agenda. Working people in this state continue to suffer because of poor public policy that is put out of this place, and almost more importantly, the good public policy, or certainly more importantly, the good public policy that is not done. This is a great state. We said it a billion times. This is a great state, and we should be a power. The only reason we're not is because of poor public policy from politicians that are more concerned with preserving their power than they are doing the right thing for the state of Illinois. And it's time that we stand up and we push back on that, and give the citizens an avenue to do so too. And that's what we're trying to do here. The politics comes and goes, but math and common sense and the right things are a constant. We're going to keep pushing that, because there's going to come a time where serious people are going to have to stand up and save this state, and that's what we're doing. So thank you very much, and I'm going to turn it over to Representative Brad Halbrook to wrap it up here, and we'll take questions.
Thank you, Representative. Brad Halbrook from Shelbyville in the 107th. Guys, I just want to echo the comments of all my colleagues that have spoke thus far. It's very frustrating to look at what's going on in our great state. While we have more and more rules and regulations controlling every aspect of our lives, the truth is the government of the state of Illinois is extremely poorly run. One agency alone has lost over $2 billion in fraudulent claims during the pandemic. The children in DCFS's care is dying at an alarming rate. Illinois has the second highest property taxes in the nation, and yet nothing is being done to address that very important issue. It's time to address the priorities that the people actually care about. The people of Illinois want to have more rights when it comes to the education and the way they educate their kids. They want lower taxes. They want the freedom to make their own choices. They want their voice to be heard. The priorities in this building are not the priorities of the average citizens. It's time to stop focusing on real issues people care about it's time to start focusing on the issues that the people care about and stop prioritizing the left's radical agenda. And with that, I'll turn it back over to my colleagues for questions.
How do you guys plan on getting support for what you're saying is necessary to turn the state around? You guys are in the super minority. Is it fair maps? Is it coming to blows with Democrats and saying, hey, this is really what we need to do? What's the goal there?
I think the biggest catalyst, we can talk about fair maps and we can talk about all that stuff. The biggest catalyst for change is what's actually happening to people on the ground. Unfortunately, these policies are leading to people actually being hurt. We've seen what's happened with the energy prices in this state. We've seen what's happened to the prices of everything. That stuff's not on accident. It's because of poor public policy, and we as a party and we as a group got to do a better job of explaining to voters that public policy matters. It matters in your pocketbook, it matters in your quality of life, it matters in your kids' education and everything like that. So a lot of it is incumbent upon us to be better messengers of this stuff. But people don't change too much until it actually starts to affect their everyday life, and we're seeing that with the tax situation and kids' education and everything else. So it's incumbent upon us to be ready. And
well, you guys are obviously elected by your residents in your jurisdiction, so the message is getting across to them. But what about the south side of Chicago or the suburbs, or how do you get across to those lawmakers, regardless of party, to get them to see what you're seeing happen?
Oh, yep. Public pressure and common sense. So I've, as a true conservative, I've made my voice known many times on the floor, opposition to legislation coming out. But I'm always willing, and I think this goes to what I've done this week with House Bill 2607 that I was able to get through. I'm always willing to have a conversation and work my bills and to put the folks of my district first, and quite frankly, the folks of the entire state first as well. So I think it's public pressure. I hear from folks throughout the entire state, not just in my district. And a lot of the times I'll get phone calls, why is my legislator doing this or voting this way? And I'll relay that to that legislator. I'll have those conversations. I just had one yesterday about CEJA, about the moratorium on nuke plants, and having a conversation on quite frankly, having a bipartisan look at what we need to do to expand our energy needs throughout the state of Illinois. Obviously, there's things that they're going to disagree with me on, and there's things that I'm going to disagree with them on. I think one of the first things I said is, hey, let's get coal and natural gas going again, and that was shot down very, very quickly. But I think public pressure, not being afraid to have those conversations, and I think that's what's going to get the job done. But ultimately, I mean, a lot of people are beholden to the special interest groups here in Springfield. But if enough noise is made by the constituents in the district, that has good effects as well.
Where's Leader McCombie on all this?
On which particular issue?
On being with you and trying to help you folks get your bills a hearing.
Leader McCombie, she's doing a good job getting our bills a hearing, trying to push our legislation for the entire caucus as well. The bills that I wanted to push and get through, and we're not going to get every one of our bills called. We understand that, but I was able to get hearings. I believe that in a large part that was me working my legislation to get the job done. But also, I think that she has a genuine interest in what we're doing and trying to push our legislative priorities forward.
Well, I thought the point of the news conference was we're not getting our bills heard or whatever, and I mean it seems to me that she'd be a big part of that, and each hand helps the other, and she's the leader.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm a little confused as to you saying she's doing a great job in advancing your bills and trying to get them heard versus, well, we in the Freedom Caucus can't get our bills heard.
Well, I think that those are two different arguments there. One is being a proponent of an entire caucus and helping push Republican ideas forward. And two is whether or not the Democrats are going to hear any of our bills and actually get them called in a committee. I think those are two different issues. I don't think that there is, quite frankly, anything that Leader McCombie could do to get one of my tax reduction bills called in revenue. Revenue is a graveyard. When I started, I was told it was, and it continues to be that way. So a tax reduction bill for reducing the corporate income tax or lowering the the income tax on every average day citizens here in the state of Illinois won't get a hearing in revenue. But what we can do is we can file those bills. We can be very vocal for our districts. We can put forth and that's why we're here, to put forth our legislative priorities, to make sure that folks know what we stand for, to give them a reason and hope to support what we're doing here in Springfield.
Well, I wanted to ask about one specific bill. I mean, you're talking about a lot of bills, and I think the big story is, what your concerns are about getting stuff heard. But the 19-cent gas tax, as much as I'd love to return to 1991 or 92 or whatever, if we do that, how are we going to pay for roads, capital, etc.?
Well, that argument has been used quite a bit when it comes to me filing the gas tax reduction back, right? Where's the money going to come from? You have GRF funds, you have different funds that go in from the gas tax that fund the roads and the bridges. I believe, and I'd have to double check these numbers, we're looking at I can't remember if it was $5 billion coming in, or I don't know exactly what the figure was coming in from the gas tax revenue. I did the numbers last year when I asked for the gas tax to be completely suspended, and the revenue numbers were still adequate to meet the year prior's numbers. And I can't remember exactly, I could supply those to you if you'd wish, but I can't remember exactly what those numbers were. So, and we asked several years ago, where is all this money going? You know, where are all these funds going to when it comes to the gas tax? And quite frankly, we could not be shown where all the money is going. So just going back a few years to the gas tax increase and going back to where we were, I think that they'd find a way. I think the revenues are there. I think that there's a way to get that job done.
To get money into the capital budget, which is separate.
We've got record revenues in the state of Illinois. The governor brags about it all the time. So revenue is not an issue. It's
But the general pocket and the capital pocket are different.
It's prioritization. Okay, let's look at what we're spending per mile on road compared to other states. We're spending a lot more because the cost of doing business in the state of Illinois is so much higher with our with our work comp situation and with our regulatory environment and everything else that goes into that. So, I mean, saying that we have to raise taxes to fund the road, we just don't agree with that premise.
It just seems to me that, and I'm not being argumentative, I just want it to be as good as you say it's going to be. Our cars are more efficient than ever. I had a 12-year-old Impala, and I was getting 20-some miles per gallon. I know because the odometer or the gas gauge was broken, and I had to use the trip meter. But and we're going to be driving electric cars. All of us in this room are going to be driving. We're using less gas than ever. So I don't necessarily see the gas tax as the long-term answer.
Yeah, and we're talking about the whole taxing environment. We're not talking about just the gas taxes. I mean, we pay the highest property taxes in the country. I think we're 1 or 2 in state and local taxes. These things are prohibiting job creators from coming here and creating jobs, and that's ultimately what we need to do to turn this thing around. We got to bring industry back. We've got to bring opportunity back to this state. We've got to raise the quality of life with our education system that is completely broken, our K through 12 in this state. If we want to make this state as good as it can be, we've got to tackle these big issues, and that's what this press conference is about. That's what we're here advocating for. We're not here, crying about our bills not getting heard. We're here talking to the people of Illinois that, hey, this thing is fixable. Illinois is salvageable. Illinois can be great. We've just got to take the steps to do it. We've got to take the tough steps to do it that the Democrats in this state refuse to do. And, frankly, historically, a lot of Republicans have refused to do as well. But there's a time for a reckoning on that, and I think we're there.
And one more thing. Part of it is getting the message out now and getting the message out within the General Assembly, but part of it is getting the message out in 2024.
Absolutely.
Building the ranks and getting more people to agree with you.
100%.
You said math and common sense. It seems to me that, and I know this isn't the topic of the news conference, but how do you assess yourselves and the rest of the Illinois Republican Party on trying to get more folks elected?
I mean, it's 78 to 40. The numbers speak for themselves. We've got to do a better job. Apparently, we're not putting out a compelling message as a party in this state, and that's what we got to do. And that's what everybody sees the problems. You talk about the suburban legislators, the Chicago legislators. Those folks are hurting too. Their people are hurting. They're being taxed into oblivion. Their education system is broken. It's. You got to give people a compelling reason to vote for a Republican in a state that's naturally inclined to vote for Democrats, and I think the situation on the ground is doing that. We've just got to be able to drive it home, and that's why we're talking about these issues. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And